Hi, friends. Welcome to Theratay. We have a little bit of a disclaimer on this song. It's called The Great War, and we just want to acknowledge that we do talk about PTSD and trauma in this episode. And I just want to be clear that we are talking about the context of this song, which does talk about war. It talks about some physical violence, and so we just want to be clear that everybody's experience is unique and we are specifically talking about this song, not you, or, generalizing trauma in general. All right, enjoy. Welcome to Theratay. We are not therapy, but we are super fun, and we're ready to dive into some therapeutic insights on the song The Great War from Midnight's 3 a.m. edition. Katie, you chose this song. Tell me why.
Okay, I liked the song from the very first moment that I heard it. There is just something about the combination of gut-wrenching lyrics and like a whole drumline upbeat bop that I just like love. I love that juxtaposition. I love that combo. So this has always been a personal favorite of mine on the album. I think the song is so raw and honest about conflict and like naming your emotional triggers that can show up uninvited in a relationship. And I just think that this song is something that is pretty unfiltered because it does not portray the protagonist in a good light until the very end. Like it's mostly just like a raw, like, here's just this inner world of mine and it's not really pretty and here's kind of what happened. It's like pulling back the curtain on something. And there's such like a rawness and an honesty in being able to show yourself in an authentic light. Um and like also like here's the bad, but here's the good. And I think the song does both, but it's just really interesting that like the protagonist is portrayed in a pretty unflattering light through most of the song. Like that really catches my attention. So yes, that's in a nutshell why I picked the song.
Yeah, it's so good. Does this song give you afterglow vibes from Lover?
Oh, yeah, I could see that. I hadn't put those two together, but I can totally see that.
Okay. Yeah. Um, so I have I have some questions, and I don't mean like the typical therapeutic questions that we are going to get to. I have other questions.
I
Um,
want to hear them. You ask really good questions, Ashley. What's up? What are your questions?
for anybody listening, you just have to know that Katie is one of the most encouraging people that exists. Like
Aw,
this
wow.
is you are just the sweetest. Um, okay, here's my questions. Is this a reference to the song Closure from Evermore?
Hold up.
Yes, I got your letter. Yes, I'm doing better. And then in this song, she talks about like tears on the letter.
Ashley, I like, oh my word. Oh my word. Yes, I could see that. I could see that being two sides of the same story. Whoa. Okay, yeah. If I don't know if this is the part that you told me I would have my mind blown, but I feel like my mind is already blown because now I feel like I need to go back after we're done recording and listen to Afterglow and Closure because Enclosure is from Evermore and Afterglow is from Lover for our listeners if they need like a little refresh. Wow. Yeah, that was a really clever connection.
So I have more because my goal is to make Katie absolutely shocked. I don't know if that's going to happen, but we'll find out. Start taking bets. This time it's not whether
Other
I'll
high,
cry.
other high. Ashley has really good insight. So just bet on Ashley in this one. I'm just gonna tell you.
We'll see. We'll see. So I had trouble figuring out this song. I had to listen to it like 4 or 5 times too, because like it's one thing when you're listening in the car, it's another thing when you're this song's therapist. So I was like, okay, is this two relationships? So like is the verse about a fight with an external party and the chorus is about like the romantic relationship that like from Sweet Nothing she was like running to?
Hmm.
Um and then like receiving support from that person, or is this song about one situation? Because I could see, because it says, she says ego swinging, maybe it was her,
Hmm.
which I'm like, okay, is this Kanye and Kim? But she would not be going to them for comfort.
Mm-mm.
So, and then I was like, well, maybe it was when they like kind of repaired things and kind of didn't. And again, we're not going to dive into the gossip of like, Taylor's life, but this is a pretty important
Yeah.
thing. So you guys can Google it if you don't know what we're talking about. But um I'm curious because the first verse gave me like Kim and Kanye vibes. Then the second verse gave me like um what's it called? Like the recording, the guy who stole her music.
Scooter
What is
Braun.
that?
Scott
Yeah,
Borchetta that sold her masters to Scooter Braun.
yeah. What is that entity called?
The masters recording.
The recordings. Like,
Yeah.
is that is the second verse a reference to that whole situation?
Hmm.
Or again, like, is this like one situation? Because then this is where I got confused. At the end, she talks about like, I'm assuming her romantic, partner being
Hmm.
like bruised and blue. Here we have blue again, which I was like, okay, I think we know what blue means, but now I'm very confused. So basically, all of this was like that guy with the red string, and his eyes are like worn out.
Yeah, the wild eyes, like taking the red string and connecting all the dots, like a movie with like a detective who's gone rogue, trying to find the like criminal.
And I was like, okay, Ashleigh, are you leaning more into the Swifty than the therapist? Like, do you need this information to move forward? And the answer was, I kind of do, because I don't know how to therapize something without really knowing what's behind the scenes here. So, Katie, how did you make sense of all of these things?
Yes. Okay. So my mind did not go in as many directions as yours on this one. I pretty much read it as like a massive like rupture in a relationship between her and another person. And I have ideas on who that person is, but again, like we're not going to get into that because that's not the focus of our podcast. But yeah, it seems to be like I read the song or heard the song through the lens of like a major relationship rupture with an intimate partner is the lens through which I read it. That being said, I think the Great War is 3 levels deep, and I'll share the 3 levels.
Oh
So, as
no.
context, Ashley's already got her hands up on her face. This like this like occurred to me while listening to it. So for our listeners, to give a little bit more backdrop on the song, um, this song, our protagonist is singing. She is hurt, she's angry, she's triggered, and she's confused, and she's talking about someone who was fighting for her in the midst of a conflict. And she uses the phrase the Great War, which is also capitalized throughout the entire song, which is interesting because, like, World War One is also called, like, the Great War. Like, that's another way, and it's always capitalized. So, like, I don't know why that randomly like connected in my mind. It may not be connected, but like it just was something I noticed. Here's the 3 levels. The first is that the protagonist is in a war or conflict with someone. The protagonist is at war with her past, and the antagonist is in a war for the relationship.
Oh, Katie.
So for the first part, the protagonist is in a war conflict with someone. Here's the lyrics that support that. All that bloodshed, crimson clover, sweet dream was over. My hand was the one you reached for all throughout the Great War. vowed not to cry anymore if we survived the Great War. There's no mourning glory. It was war. It wasn't fair. So this is clearly about conflict. Then the second level is the protagonist is at war with her past. And here's the lyrics that seem to support that. And maybe it's the past that's talking, screaming from the crypt, telling me to punish you for things you never did, so I justified it. It turned into something bigger somewhere in the haze. God, since I'd been betrayed, your finger on my hairpin triggers.
Okay, wait, wait,
Ashleigh,
wait.
tell me more.
I didn't put this together until you just read that out loud, but doesn't she talk about a crypt with would have, could have, should have?
Yes,
Do you think it's the same
yes.
crypt?
I don't know. I don't know. I wouldn't put it past Taylor. I wouldn't put it past Taylor at all. I think she's exceptionally skilled at weaving together multiple conflicts into a single theme and then writing the song from that theme, but could be exploring multiple events in her life that have that shared thing. So, very possible. And then the final level, the antagonist is at war for the relationship. Here's where I hear, again, I think that she's not portraying herself in a flattering light, but portraying the antagonist in a positive light. My hand was the one you reached for. You said I have to trust more freely. You drew up some good faith treaties. Soldier down on that icy ground, looked up at me with honor and truth. So she's the one that put the soldier down on the icy ground. And that soldier that she put on the ground is looking up at her with honor and truth.
And she
So it
called off the
seems
truth.
like she called off the truce. So like this song seems to be about her in full-fledged attack and somebody who's managing her attack because of whatever the trigger was, whatever her past, that caused that trigger, and then this person who's fighting for the relationship, fighting her for the sake of the relationship. Like she's just on like demolition. Like she's just like this is like end game, right? Like this is over, and this person is fighting to stay in the relationship, fighting to save the relationship. Is kind of how I read it.
Wow. That's a lot to take in.
Okay, we'll take a moment. Take your time. Yeah, it like really like it like shook me when I realized like I think there's three different wars being referenced.
Yeah.
So take a beat. I would love to hear your thoughts, Ashley.
Wow. No, I think that's really insightful, Katie, because it seems like the underlying theme here is like these are the battles that I fought and how it's affected me and or them, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
But to have she's just so good. Like who has the many, many layers? And then there's like these different references where it's like it could be this, it could be this. And she does it on purpose.
mm-hmm,
Like how
mm-hmm,
much time
yeah,
did she spend on this song? You know, like I would love to see how it was written for like the majority of songs.
yes, yes,
But here's the
yes.
thing, she couldn't do that because it's like she has to go through all of these experiences. Like you it's just how is she so good, Katie?
I like it's so deep. I don't know. I would love to have that. I would love to ask that question. I'd love to hear the answer. Like it feels very meta. It feels very like a dream within a dream, like Inception-ish, like when you listen to her music and like when you really go down like the rabbit hole into like the wonderland of Taylor's music, it just is crazy how many things connect. And like you just brought up too, like how many songs are different perspectives. So it feels like almost like a prism, like depending on like what light is shining and what angle you look at, you're seeing a different shade of the exact same object or situation. So I love songs that like seem to mirror each other. And we saw a lot of that with TTPD, like certain songs that seem to be telling the same story that had been told but in a different perspective. And it's just this very like metaverse of Taylor's life.
It is. It really is. There's just so many layers. Oh, it's so good. Okay. So that was quite the
Deep breath.
preamble. I know.
For our listeners, Ashley just took a deep breath. Like she's just like preparing, like settling myself. Like, okay.
I need to
It
calm
was
my
very
nervous
funny. And
system.
not all of our listeners will be watching this, so I just had to tell people. Okay, I interrupted you. What direction were you going to go?
This is me trying, Katie. Um,
You're
so
very funny.
a good preamble. So let's keep all of this stuff in context. Do you want to move through my word, move forward to defining a trigger? I think that's an important thing for us to have just kind of as we go into like asking questions and that kind of thing.
Yes, yes. So, in psychology, a trigger is a stimulus that causes a painful memory to resurface. That stimulus can be pretty much anything. The word is used more casually in like culture today and online. So that might cause some confusion for our listeners, but clinically, it's important to notice that there's a difference between being uncomfortable or being offended and having a true mental health symptom. So, in general, when a person is triggered, they're being provoked by a stimulus that awakens or worsens the symptoms of a traumatic event or mental health condition. And I'm quoting that from the website Psych Central. And I think that I'll add my own kind of twist or version of that. A more casual definition of a trigger is when you are unable to distinguish the past from the present. It feels so similar to the point that you are reliving the traumatic circumstance. So if you were to use like, there's a therapeutic theory called polyvagal theory, and it talks a lot about how our nervous systems like remember situations that happen. And so your nervous system is responding in the present how it did in the moment in the past when the trigger happened or when when the trauma happened. So it's a lack of differentiation between past and present.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And she talks about hairpin triggers. And I looked up specifically that term. And I guess it's like
Ooh.
referencing like a weapon that like has a very sensitive trigger. So like
Mm-hmm.
not taking a lot of effort to make it, do its thing. So
Yeah. Yes. I am glad that you looked up the hairpin because I understood it meant fragile, but like I liked that like you like looked up the specific like definition of it. I'll also add that in the song, triggers is plural,
yeah.
which is interesting that she's talking about like there's multiple things. So when you think about a conflict that's arising out of a trigger, there's a couple things to notice contextually. One is it's going to be a surprise because trauma doesn't come back as a memory, trauma comes back as a reaction. And when you have, let's say, one trigger, okay, that might, depending on like the significance of that trigger, that could be pretty high. But when you start stacking them and layering them, like multiple triggers into one reaction, like you're talking about something that's pretty explosive potentially. And maybe
Hmm.
explosive in terms of like it goes out or implosion, like you crumble within. But either way, something's given and not in a good direction. So, is there
I'm
anything you
so
would
glad you
add to
said that. No, I'm so glad that you kind of define that. I think that's really important as we continue. Um, so do you want to share your questions for this person?
Yeah. First question. It sounds like your past is showing up in your present in a harmful way. Have you tended to your betrayal trauma? And I highlight the betrayal because it sounds there's just a few references throughout the song of like you expected one thing, it was something else, like your trust was violated. And there's a specific lyric I'd like to highlight here. How did something turn into something bigger? You said, somewhere in the haze, got a sense I'd been betrayed. Your finger on my hairpin triggers, soldier down on that icy ground. So this is pretty severe. Um, Not only did you experience that trigger, but you put a soldier on that icy ground. So this provoked some kind of reaction that resulted in harmful action. So, can we explore that?
Yes, I'm
Those are
so glad you
reactions.
brought that lyric up because when I heard that, I wondered if she was talking about the lavender haze.
Oh, oh, see, Ashley, I didn't even put that together.
There are so many
Whoa,
layers.
there's so many layers. You're right. The haze. That's a very specific word used on the first song of the album. Fascinating. Not all is perfect in paradise. Okay, okay, keep going. I'm listening.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Because then that would be more like, okay, this song is about one relationship throughout, right? We're
Mm-hmm.
not gonna know. I don't know. I could talk about this song for 3 hours, Katie, because I was listening to it, and every time I listened to it, something new was like click. I couldn't believe it.
Let's get into it because I want to hear all those clicks. Like I want to hear all the things that like pulled together for you.
Well, yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm continuing to do that as you're talking because there's just so many pieces to this. Because, like, let's go back to the trigger part. Like, any of those things that we referenced at the beginning of this conversation could be extremely
Mm-hmm.
triggering, right? Like, she has been through a lot of trauma, and I'm sure things that we don't even know about, right? So, like,
Mm-hmm.
what and we don't have to know what those are, but like imagine the sensitivity um
Mm-hmm.
that somebody's experiencing the world. And then like when somebody's triggered, like you gave a very good like clinical definition, but sometimes that can look like, you know, unreasonable reactions to something that is bringing back those memories that is not meant to be against
Mm-hmm.
you. um
Mm-hmm.
so like I use an example with my clients sometimes of like there's a lot of blue in my office. Somebody could hate the color blue and come in
Mm-hmm.
my office and say like how dare you use the color blue? This is so hard for me. Like this I I've never, um I've never liked the color blue. The color blue is offensive to me because of things that have happened in my past. Is it wrong for me to have blue in my office? No, but it's bringing back things clearly that are difficult about the color blue, right? So like that's a very like simple explanation, but like people can get even combative sometimes when they're feeling triggered. And so I'm
Yeah.
picturing in this song, like she's talking about her knuckles being bruised. She's talking
Mm-hmm.
about like physical
Mm-hmm.
difficulties. And
Yeah.
obviously, like, I don't think that Taylor Swift herself is like punching walls, maybe, but I doubt it.
Yeah.
but but
Yeah.
the intensity of that can happen. So that doesn't mean that it's like an appropriate response to whatever the thing is that's causing that, right? It's an understandable response. But that's where like therapy can come in and say, like, okay, how can we kind of move through some of these things that are causing this intense reaction to something that you are going to continue experience, right? You can't avoid the color blue.
Right.
Um,
Right. I think that like to build off of that too, like I've heard it said that like a trigger is a reasonable reaction to unreasonable circumstances or trauma, right? Like trauma reactions are reasonable responses to unreasonable circumstances. And it shows up in present situations where it's like, okay, that does look like an unreasonable response. So let's look at like what are you actually reacting to? Well, that reasonable reaction to what you're reacting to, but that's not what happened. Hence the
mhm.
trigger where you can't tell the difference. So am I tracking with what you're saying?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That like that somebody um could be doing or saying something, or there could be something in your environment that's triggering you that is not actually in the present day going to harm you, but your body and your mind are saying that it's harmful because of your past experiences.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I got on that tangent because we were talking about like the crypt, right? Like I feel like that's such an interesting way for her to talk about like what trauma can be, right? There's stuff from way, way, way back when that's screaming at me, saying this is what's
Mm-hmm.
happening. And her response is saying, like, I don't know what's real. All I know is last time I punched, and that's what got me through. So then she's saying, like, as I was punching, this person got knocked down, I think, right? Like,
Yeah.
um, there's a, have you ever seen Grey's Anatomy?
A few episodes here. I haven't really watched the show, but I know enough about it. I could probably track with what you're saying.
This is like, this is like a big tangent. Are you okay with that?
I'm so down. Let's go.
Okay. This is like the ultimate going rogue. Um, So in Grey's Anatomy, I do not remember the names of these characters or the seasons. So it's in that show somewhere. But there's a person who has PTSD from being in war, and he is having dreams. Like he'll be asleep and he has dreams um, where he's back in like a war situation, and he winds up like being physically violent with his partner because he's like in this dream state, um and not realizing like where he is,
Mm.
and so his partner is like trying to bring him to reality, like you're not in that situation again. But there's like this whole storyline about it because it's like with like doctors in the hospital, it's like a continuation. But I
Mm-hmm.
just picture this like in the end of the song, it's talking about like somebody being like on the icy ground. Like I picture that partner too, where it's like this person had nothing to do with with these difficult things that have happened. This was just how I
Mm-hmm.
knew to get through it.
Yeah. Yes. And I think you're highlighting an incredibly important uh, element of trauma, which is that we do what we need to do to survive. And
Mm-hmm.
well, if you survive it, then it was successful. Like you did make it through. But when you continue to utilize that survival strategy when you're safe, it becomes very detrimental to yourself and to others. So I think you're really, I hadn't considered the idea of like this trauma reaction taking out somebody else, but like that that completely fits. Like I see what you're saying there. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, these are all different layers that I was kind of clicking as we were listening and talking because yeah, yeah, I feel like all of my answers to the actual questions are like conflict based, but there's so much more to it. It's
Yeah, absolutely.
so
Yeah.
deep.
And I think like the what I love about the song is how it starts out with like the protagonist asking questions like um you know, tore your banners down, took the battle underground. Maybe it was ego swinging, maybe it was her. Flashes of the battle come back to me in a blur. Like this idea of like I can even like fully remember what happened. Maybe it was this, maybe it was that. Like she's trying to figure out what the heck just happened. And that again is a reality of trauma is when we react, it's only later that we're trying to figure out what even happened because we're not fully present with ourselves when we're in the middle of a reaction.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's how our brains work. Like it's not our fault when that happens. It just means we need some extra support to get to a point where we don't automatically do that.
Right, right, exactly, exactly. Did you have some specific questions that you would ask this client, Ashleigh?
Thank you for bringing us back. um, what caused you to realize you may have taken it too far? Because I think there are people who are saying this is just how I deal with things, and then there are others who are saying, okay, yeah, I could improve.
Yeah.
Um, and what was it like for you to receive support when trust felt impossible?
Oh, wow. Yeah, to dig into that specific moment where there was a transition from like, I don't trust you to like, oh, I can trust you and I can receive support from you. That is such a good question. Wow, you could spend an entire therapy session, probably multiple, talking about just that question.
Yeah. Yeah. So because that's true, I'll keep moving forward. What questions did you have, or did we talk about yours already?
We talked about mine already.
Okay. So let's go to what you would validate.
Well, I think this validation will not come as a surprise. It's absolutely normal that our past experiences will influence our current circumstances. And I also wanted to explore a certain line in the song. We're burned for the better. I vowed I would always be yours because we survived the Great War. And I think what this lyric is talking about is coming out stronger from conflict. And I want to affirm that conflict can strengthen a relationship. And personally, in therapy, I'll use the analogy of exercise training. So, like when you do resistance training, your muscles will actually experience micro tears. And then when they repair through nutrition and rest, you gain muscle, like it gets bigger, right? And that's also true relationally. Like you can experience, conflict that leads to like a strengthened relationship. At the same time, just like an exercise, sometimes that micro tear becomes major, and then we're dealing with injury, and then that could significantly affect your health. It may change outcomes, like you may not recover from that. And in this song, I'm hearing that you had a fight that almost became a permanent injury. So when you sing that was the night I nearly lost you, I lost you. Like that tells me this was not a micro tear, this was like injury to the relationship. So I just want to normalize that like it is possible for relationships to come back from something this big, but it will almost always inform how the relationship moves forward. It will never go back to what it was before because we have to live in light of that injury, even when it's
Hmm.
recovered. And just to
Yeah.
normalize for something to not go back to what it was.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good, Katie. So good. Yeah, I had a similar idea. Just that like ruptures in relationships are expected. Like you can't expect a relationship, or a connected relationship, I should say, without conflict. And it's how you repair those attachment pieces that kind of is going to help you move through or not move past. Um, and I would also say you've learned your lessons now, right? Like you're acknowledging that there are other ways that you want to handle these situations in the future.
Yes. Yes. So good. So true.
What
Yeah.
would you
That reflection.
recommend to this person? Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're good. So the recommendation, so I'll again reference a lyric. You said, I vowed not to fight anymore if we survive war. So I hear this person's intention and desire to not relive this pain and this conflict. That being the case, I would strongly encourage you to explore and resolve your past hurts so that you're less likely to harm your loved ones moving forward. And good intentions, like I don't, I'll never do this again. I don't intend to. Like good intentions will not result in good outcomes. Like we need more than good intentions. So past traumas or hurts don't just disappear. They have to be addressed. They have to be like emotions have to be felt and resolution has to be received. It's all part of the healing process. And I will add that healing doesn't always have to involve the other person. It may not be possible. That person could be deceased. That could person could be unwilling. They could be an unsafe person to repair with. That doesn't excuse your responsibility to resolve your own trauma and to receive resolution from yourself as best as you can. Even if you want it to involve that other person, it doesn't depend on their willingness to engage in that process. So, my recommendation is do your work, go back to the things, do the healing work. So, yeah, that's all that I have on that. What did you have, Ashleigh?
So good. Um, I said continue being brave and standing up for yourself. She has a lyric, spineless in the tomb of my silence.
Yeah. Oh, such a good lyric. Say
It
more.
is. It is. You don't have to sit in the tomb of silence or fight a war. There can be a middle ground. And that is, slightly dependent on the other person, right? That's where we have some boundaries too and some recognition of what we can allow.
Hmm.
But if the other person is being, reasonable, there can be a middle ground. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Anything that you would challenge?
Um, I can't tell in this situation if things were building up over time or if if she was addressing them as they were coming. If somebody's shooting at you or like there's a bomb happening right outside, it's clearly like in the moment that you are interacting with it. But I couldn't quite tell. So if things were, building up over time, I would say maybe addressing it sooner. If she's sitting in a tomb of silence, that tells me maybe there is some time happening in between or like
Hmm.
multiple, you know, figurative shots fired that like
Yeah,
she may may have been able to address sooner. But that was really my only challenge. What about you?
yeah. So I think that was a great challenge, and thank you for bringing it up. It is to allow this other person or relationship to be part of your healing. Because it's apparent to me from the song that both characters, both people, love each other and want the relationship to survive. And one of the ways that we regain our capacity to trust is by actually trusting somebody who's worthy of that trust and who's proven with a track record that they are a worthwhile, trustworthy person. We can relearn that trust is safe, even though it wasn't always in the past.
Yeah. Yeah, and that takes time and like reinforcement too.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Yeah.
it does. And then
Anything you would
anything. Oh, sorry, I
That's
beat you
okay.
to it.
Yeah, that's okay. I'll share mine. She has a line, "We're burned for better," which you referenced earlier. So I said sometimes the hardest things in life define core pieces of ourselves, and we can choose whether it's like where we want to take it from there. But going through difficulties can cause us to grow if we allow them to.
Yes, yes, it's so good. I added that it sounds like you have really good awareness and capacity for self reflection. And so I would encourage you to do more of that as you explore and resolve the hurts from your past. So it's more just like, I see what you're doing. It's good, hard work. Keep going. It's going to yield good results in your relationships.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. It's so good. Anything else you want to say about this one?
That's all my thoughts. Do you have anything to add?
I don't know. Somebody needs to go listen to this song. One thing I did want to say, the lyric video has a white flag flying in the background, like "I surrender," which just feels like a whole other. I know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because it's about good faith treaties. Like you drew up good faith treaties. I do curtains closed, drink my poison all alone. Like she is like rejecting the treaties. Oh, yeah. This is deep. This is really deep. It really is a great war. I
It
love
is.
that you brought that up. Well, listeners, thank you so much for joining us on this exciting episode. I hope you enjoyed it. We will be moving on to more songs in midnight, so listen. We are covering the songs Karma and Labyrinth next. So, Ashley, anything to say about that?
I'm excited. I cannot wait.
Thanks for listening. Jeremy, thank you for being our editor, and we'll look forward to connecting next time.